Morning all and welcome back once again to I Like Watches. In today's video I'm going to be showing you a gorgeous dive watch. I reached out to this brand inviting them to participate in one of my steel finishing comparison videos, and to my surprise they replied saying they would love to participate. Which watch do you want, they said, and for me there was only one choice: this gorgeous vintage inspired diver. So in this video I'm going to run through the specifications and see how they hold up to the price tag of £410 British, and then in the future I will film that comparison video, so make sure you come back and watch that. But yeah, for now stick around to take a closer look at this Orient Vintage Mako. So the watch that I've picked to show you in this particular video, and of course the future comparison video, is the AA0811E, which I've already mentioned retails in the UK for £410 British, but I have had a look online and it is available for less than that at certain outlets. So yeah, make sure you do your research before picking up this or any other Orient watch, I guess. There are a few versions of this watch available, but this is the one that stood out to me, primarily because of the colour of the dial, and there is a subtle colour change on the bezel insert as well, which yeah, is nice. The loom on the dial and the hands also has that sort of vintage tint to it. It's a little bit stronger on the hands than it is on the applied indices. I think it would have been nicer if those colours had matched. It's subtle, the difference, but there is a noticeable difference. Now of course, one of the things that people focus on when they're buying, talking about, just generally with Orient watches, is the in-house movements. And of course this watch is no different. It houses the automatic F6922. It has a day-date complication at the 3 o'clock. It is of course a three-handed automatic dive watch, 40 hours of power reserve, -15 to +25 seconds a day in terms of its expected accuracy. And I get it. I do understand why in-house movements do cause a little bit of a stir. I don't think I'm as enthused about it as some people, because there are many brands out there that produce in-house movements. But for some reason it does seem to be one of the things that people focus on when it comes to Orient watches, and yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. It's a good movement, but there's more to this watch than just the in-house movement. Bezel action's nice. It's, well, typically Seiko. It's got that sort of smooth, greasy feel to it. The alignment on this one is perfect, so in that sense it's not like Seiko. And they've put sapphire crystal on this watch, which I think was an absolute must for the price tag. I think if they hadn't put sapphire crystal on this watch, that would have been an absolute no-go. So yeah, I am pleased to see that it's got sapphire, and I would have been very disappointed had it not. There are a couple of specifications that disappoint. Hollow end links. I think at this price point it should have solid end links, and the clasp isn't fantastic. Push pins or split pins as well, and they don't feel like the best quality. But once I resized it and put it on my wrist, you forget about those three things, to be honest. It just feels like a well balanced, beautifully proportioned, gorgeous looking dive watch. So yeah, I'll complain about those three things, but the reality is when you're wearing this watch, they don't really matter too much. I think we've just become accustomed to watches in this price point having solid end links, solid milled clasps and screw pins. The loom is decent. I'll show you the loom at the end of the video. The steel finishing looks good as well, although I'm not going to talk about that really, because I do want you to come back and watch the comparison video. That will really tell us how good or bad the steel finishing and the applied indices are on this watch, because I'm going to zoom in really tight and yeah, compare this watch to other watches in a similar sort of price bracket, and yeah, then we'll know just how good the finishing is. But what I will say is, without the help of a macro lens, just with my naked eye, it's better than I was expecting. It's been a little while since I've handled Orient watches, and in the past I've been a little bit disappointed with the finishing and just the overall build quality, but this one does actually feel better than I was expecting. So I'm hopeful that it's actually going to do pretty well in that comparison video. You've got an aluminium bezel insert that sort of falls into line with that sort of vintage theme that they've gone for with this particular range of watches. And I feel like I want to talk about the dial again because, yeah, I'm looking at the watch and the dial colour is just gorgeous. I love it. I really, really do. It's almost black around the outside, and then it fades fairly quickly as you travel towards the center of the dial to a sort of greeny, bluey teal color. Nice hands as well. They seem to be nicely cut, nice and bright, well proportioned with the dial. The second hand and the minute hand reaching right out to the edge of the dial. And yeah, I like the shape of the applied indices as well. You've got a few circular pips, a couple of rectangular ones, and then a sort of triangular pip at the 12. Simple case back. It is, of course, a screw down case back, a few specifications and the dolphin logo there. You've got a screw down crown. Of course, this is a dive watch, 200 meters of water resistance. You'll find the logo on the crown and on the outer shell of the clasp, and yeah, they seem to be nicely done. End link fit seems a little bit loose. You've got female end links, which is nice. It's not the smallest diver. It's a sort of average size diver, isn't it? And yeah, I think that's a good decision to put female end links. It's just going to help people with slightly smaller than average wrists to wear this watch. So yeah, that's a good decision, and they seem to match the case pretty well, although yeah, there is a little bit of movement with the end links. So I think overall I've been pleasantly surprised by this watch. It's definitely better than I thought it was going to be. It's definitely the best looking Orient diver that I've handled and featured on my channels, and actually the finishing with my naked eye looks to be the best out of all the watches of theirs that I've handled, but there's still a few weaknesses in terms of the specifications. And I think at this price point, $410, yeah, it's not good enough, is it? There are a lot of options out there when you're close to spending £400 or $500, over $500 on a dive watch, and so many of those alternatives will have the specifications that this watch is missing. But what most of those other brands won't have is the reputation, the following, and that sort of connection to their own movements that this brand and these watches have. And that is undoubtedly why these watches are so popular, and I don't think there's too many people out there forking out £410 for this watch, if I'm being honest. Yeah, it seems to be discounted at many vendors online, so if you want this watch, you'll be able to pick it up for less than £410, and then it becomes a much better proposition, doesn't it? But for me, the biggest draw of this watch is not the in-house movement or the branding, it is the way it looks. Just love it. Really nice looking watch, and hopefully soon enough we'll know how the finishing compares to some other watches. I've got some micro brand watches, AliExpress watches, and other high street brand watches to compare against this Orient Mako vintage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this watch holds up. Right guys, as always, a massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section. You'll see me again very soon.